Tonight, we journey to a city where wisdom was once honored as the greatest treasure a person could seek. Long before the streets filled with the sounds of merchants and philosophers, before the marble temples gleamed beneath the bright Mediterranean sun, another Athens quietly emerged each evening. As daylight faded beyond the surrounding hills, warm golden light lingered on pale stone. The bustle of the marketplace gave way to gentle conversation, and cool indigo shadows stretched across the pathways that wound toward the great hill of the Acropolis. High above those quiet streets, an owl stirred from its resting place among weathered columns. With effortless grace, it slipped into the night air, its wings moving so softly that the city below never heard its passing. It circled above olive groves silvered by moonlight, over peaceful courtyards where fountains reflected the stars, and past rooftops where the day's final lamps slowly flickered into darkness. The owl was in no hurry. Night belonged to quiet observation, and there was much to see when the world finally slowed enough to notice itself. Welcome to the Sleepy Legends channel. Tonight, we invite you to settle into a comfortable place, take a slow breath, and allow the ancient world to unfold around you. If you enjoy peaceful journeys through mythology, folklore, and history, we would be grateful if you would take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue exploring the stories that have traveled across centuries, carried by memory, imagination, and the quiet voices of those who came before us. We always enjoy hearing where our travelers are listening from. Whether tonight finds you beneath the summer stars, beside a rainy window, or wrapped in blankets on a quiet winter evening, feel free to share your corner of the world in the comments below. If there's another legend, historical figure, or ancient place you would enjoy visiting together on a future evening, we would love to hear those suggestions as well. Many of our favorite journeys have begun with ideas shared by listeners just like you. As our walk begins, allow the modern world to grow a little more distant. Imagine smooth stones beneath your feet, worn by countless generations who climbed these same paths. The air carries the faint scent of olive leaves and the sea beyond the city walls. Somewhere nearby, water trickles gently from an ancient fountain. The breeze moves softly through cypress branches before drifting toward the temples that rest above the sleeping city. Nothing asks to be hurried. Nothing demands your attention. The night simply invites you to wander. The owl continues its quiet flight, gliding above the highest rooftops before settling for a moment upon the broad branch of an old olive tree. From here, the city seems peaceful, almost timeless. Marble glows softly beneath the moon, while distant hills fade into layers of blue and lavender. It is easy to imagine that this landscape has always existed just as it appears now. Yet every stone, every pathway, and every tree has witnessed centuries of change. Empires have risen and faded. Languages have shifted. Travelers have come seeking knowledge, carrying home stories that would be told for generations. Among all those stories, one name has remained remarkably constant. It is the name of a goddess whose influence reached far beyond magnificent temples or heroic adventures. She was admired not because she promised easy victories, but because she encouraged thoughtful choices. She valued careful planning over reckless courage, patience over impulse, and understanding over pride. To the people of ancient Greece, True strength was not measured only by power. It was measured by wisdom, and no figure represented that ideal more completely than Athena. In many tales, she appears beside kings, heroes, artists, builders, and ordinary people alike. Sometimes she offers guidance, so quietly that her presence is almost overlooked. Sometimes she is recognized only after a difficult decision has already revealed its wisdom. Rather than standing at the center of every story, she often stands just beyond it, helping others discover the path they were always capable of finding for themselves. Perhaps that is one reason her stories have endured for so many centuries. They remind us that wisdom rarely announces itself with great fanfare. More often, it arrives gently, asking only that we pay attention. The owl lifts from its branch once more, carried by the cool currents that rise along the hillside. Below, the Acropolis waits in quiet stillness, its temples bathed in soft moonlight that smooths every sharp edge into gentle shades of silver and blue. Somewhere within this peaceful city begins the story we have come to hear. It is a story woven from myth and memory, from history and imagination, and from the enduring hope that knowledge can illuminate even the darkest night. So make yourself comfortable as we begin our evening walk through ancient Greece. Together we will wander beneath olive trees, stand among timeless columns, listen to the whispers of old legends, and discover why Athena became one of the most beloved figures in the ancient world. Above us, the owl continues its silent journey through the stars, watching without judgment, patient enough to notice what hurried eyes often miss. And so, beneath an indigo sky washed with gentle moonlight, our journey begins. The owl circled once above the quiet Acropolis before settling upon the weathered branch of an ancient olive tree. From there, the city stretched outward beneath an indigo sky, its rooftops softened by moonlight and its temples glowing with a quiet radiance that seemed untouched by time. The breeze carried the gentle scent of olive leaves and distant sea air, while the marble beneath reflected the pale light of the stars. For countless generations, those who climbed the sacred hill believed they were entering a place watched over by a remarkable guardian. They did not come expecting thunder or dazzling displays of power. They came seeking something quieter. They came hoping for clear judgment, steady hands, and the wisdom to choose well when life's path offered more than one direction. That guardian was Athena. The ancient artist who carved her likeness into marble rarely gave her the fierce expression one might expect of a goddess associated with war. Instead, her face was calm and thoughtful. Her gaze looked beyond the moment, as though she considered not only what was happening now, but what might happen tomorrow, or even years from now. Wisdom, after all, has always been concerned with consequences as much as decisions. She is often shown wearing a polished bronze helmet, yet it rests comfortably upon her head, rather than suggesting conflict. A spear stands beside her, not lifted in anger, but held with quiet confidence. Draped across one shoulder is the mysterious aegis, a protective cloak adorned with the image of the Gorgon, reminding those who looked upon it that courage and caution often walk together. And nearby, almost never forgotten, sits the owl. Sometimes it rests upon her shoulder. Sometimes it perches upon her outstretched hand. In other works of art, it simply waits beside her, its bright eyes open while the world grows dark. It asks for no attention, Yet it is always there, a quiet companion whose watchfulness came to symbolize the careful observation that lies at the heart of wisdom itself. The people of ancient Greece admired many qualities. They celebrated strength, bravery, beauty, and athletic skill. Yet they also understood that great accomplishments rarely depended upon strength alone. A shipbuilder needed patience before the first plank was cut. A sculptor required careful vision before the chisel ever touched the stone. A leader needed thoughtful judgment before asking others to follow. Wisdom quietly guided every worthy endeavor. No figure embodied those ideals more completely than Athena. As the owl watched over the sleeping city, it became easy to imagine the countless generations who had climbed these same worn steps. Some came carrying small offerings of olive oil or woven cloth. Others sought guidance before beginning long voyages across uncertain seas. Craftsmen asked for skill. Students hoped to sharpen their minds. Parents wished for good judgment as they raised their children. Each visitor brought different hopes, yet many quietly placed their trust in the same goddess. Unlike many myths that begin with battles or monsters, Athena's story often begins with a question. What makes a civilization truly great? Is it wealth? Is it power? Or is it the wisdom to build something that will endure long after a single lifetime has passed? The ancient Athenians believed they already knew the answer. Perhaps that is why they named their city in her honor. They wished to become known not only for impressive walls or prosperous markets, but for learning, thoughtful debate, beautiful craftsmanship, and the patient pursuit of knowledge. Their greatest tribute to Athena was not merely the temples they built. It was the kind of community they hoped to become. The owl lifted quietly into the night once again, circling above the marble columns that crowned the sacred hill. From above, the city appeared peaceful, almost suspended between memory and dream. Every rooftop, every olive grove, and every winding street seemed connected by stories passed from one generation to the next. Among those stories, none was told more often than the remarkable tale of Athena herself. For unlike any other of the Olympian gods, her life did not begin with an ordinary birth. It began with a mystery so extraordinary that poets continue telling it for centuries, each hoping to capture the wonder of the moment when wisdom itself first entered the world. As the owl glided silently across the moonlit sky, its shadow passed over quiet courtyards, narrow stone streets, and workshops where tomorrow's labors patiently awaited the coming dawn. In daylight, these places would fill with the steady rhythm of ordinary life. Potters would shape clay upon their wheels. Bronze workers would coax beautiful forms from glowing metal. Weavers would guide colorful threads into intricate patterns. Builders would carefully measure each stone before lifting it into place. To each of them, wisdom was not an abstract idea. It lived within practiced hands, patient minds, and the willingness to improve little by little with each passing day. Perhaps that is one reason Athena remained so deeply loved throughout the Greek world. She was not distant from everyday life. She did not belong only to kings or legendary heroes. Anyone who sought to learn a new skill, solve a difficult problem, or create something lasting could hope to find inspiration in her example. The stories tell us that she delighted in craftsmanship as much as victory, and in thoughtful preparation as much as bold action. A carefully woven cloth, a beautifully balanced temple, or a well-crafted ship reflected the same quiet wisdom that guided rulers and philosophers. Excellence, the Greeks believed, was seldom the result of haste. It grew through patience, discipline, and careful attention to even the smallest details. As centuries passed, Athena became known by many titles, each revealing another part of her character. She was honored as the protector of cities, the guardian of skilled artisans, the companion of wise rulers, and the champion of those who sought knowledge. In every role, she encouraged people to look beyond immediate rewards and consider what would endure. The owl settled upon the roof of a quiet temple, its bright eyes watching as a gentle breeze stirred the leaves of nearby olive trees. Their branches had witnessed generations come and go. Some of the oldest trees seemed almost timeless, adding one new ring of growth each year with remarkable patience. They asked for little beyond sunlight, rain, and the steady passage of the seasons. There was something deeply fitting about that quiet endurance. Wisdom grows in much the same way. Rarely does it arrive all at once. More often, it is gathered through careful observation, thoughtful conversations, unexpected mistakes, and lessons slowly earned over many years. Like the olive tree, it extends its branches gradually, offering shelter not only to those who planted it, but also to those who come after. The people of Athens understood this connection well. They surrounded themselves with places devoted to learning, discussion, and craftsmanship because they believed a city should cultivate wisdom just as carefully as a gardener tends an orchard. Beautiful buildings could inspire future generations. Honest debate could sharpen understanding. Stories could preserve lessons that might otherwise be forgotten. It is no surprise that Athena came to represent all of these hopes. Even today, thousands of years later, her image still appears in libraries, universities, museums, and places where people gather to learn. Her faithful owl continues to symbolize careful observation, while the olive branch remains one of the world's enduring signs of peace and reconciliation. Although the ancient temples have weathered countless centuries, the ideas she inspired continue to flourish in ways the first storytellers could scarcely have imagined. Yet for all the wisdom Athena would one day share with gods and mortals alike, the ancient poets never forgot that every story has a beginning. They spoke of a time before the Parthenon crowned the Acropolis, before philosophers wandered the shaded colonnades, before Athens became celebrated throughout the ancient world as a center of learning and thoughtful debate. Long before she became the city's beloved guardian, Athena herself entered the world in a way unlike any other immortal. The owl rose once more into the quiet night, climbing higher above the marble hill until the city lay peacefully beneath its wings. Somewhere beyond the stars, where myth and memory gently meet, the oldest storytellers were preparing to tell of an extraordinary birth. It is there that our own journey now continues to the remarkable moment when wisdom first stepped into the light. Long before the great temples of Athens rose above the surrounding hills, and long before poets sang of Athena's wisdom, the ancient Greeks imagined a younger world, when the Olympian gods were still shaping the order of the heavens and the earth. The mountains were new in the stories they told. Rivers had only begun their endless journeys toward the sea. Forests stretched across valleys untouched by roads, while the stars wheeled silently overhead, marking the passing of nights much as they do today. It was an age when every breeze, every spring, and every distant thunderstorm seemed to carry the presence of a divine power. Among the rulers of this young world stood Zeus, Lord of the bright sky. He had overcome the older generation of Titans and brought a new order to the cosmos. Yet even after great victories had been won, his greatest challenges were not always found upon the battlefield. More often, they arrived quietly, in the form of choices whose consequences would not become clear until many years had passed. One of those choices began with a goddess named Métis. Her name is often translated as wisdom, but the ancient Greeks understood the word to mean something even richer. Métis represented thoughtful judgment, careful planning, practical intelligence, and the quiet ability to recognize the best path when many possibilities lay before you. She was associated with insight rather than force, with patience rather than haste, and with the kind of understanding that reveals itself only after careful observation. If the owl reminds us to watch before acting, Métis reminds us to think before deciding. The stories tell us that Zeus admired these qualities greatly, and that he chose Métis as one of his earliest companions. Together, they represented strength guided by understanding, a balance the ancient storytellers believed every good ruler should possess. Yet the old prophecies that echoed through Greek mythology rarely allowed even the gods to rest easily. It was foretold that Métis would bear 2 children. The first would be a daughter of extraordinary wisdom and courage. The second, according to the prophecy, would become a son destined to surpass his own father in power. For anyone familiar with Greek mythology, such prophecies carried enormous weight. Zeus himself had risen to power after overcoming his father, Cronus. Cronus, in turn, had overthrown Uranus before him. Again and again, the story spoke of one generation replacing the last, as though time itself moved in an endless cycle of renewal. Zeus understood these tales all too well. The possibility that history might repeat itself filled him with quiet concern. The prophecy did not describe something certain, but neither could it be ignored. Like many rulers in mythology, Zeus found himself facing a decision with no easy answer. Different ancient writers tell this part of the story in slightly different ways, yet most agree upon what happened next. Rather than allowing fate to unfold, Zeus chose to prevent the prophecy from coming to pass. He called upon all his wisdom and all his authority, believing he could outwit destiny itself. The decision he made has remained one of the most unusual moments in all of Greek mythology. He swallowed Métis. To modern ears, the image sounds startling, yet ancient myths often express profound ideas through symbolic stories, rather than literal events. Many scholars have suggested that the tale reflects Zeus's desire to take wisdom into himself, uniting strength and understanding within a single ruler. Others see it as another example of mythology exploring humanity's age-old hope that the future can somehow be controlled if only the right choices are made. Whatever meaning listeners have found within the story across the centuries, the ancient poets agreed on one important point. Métis did not disappear. Hidden within Zeus, her wisdom remained alive. Her voice continued to guide him. Her understanding became part of his own, and unknown to everyone else. The child foretold by prophecy continued to grow. Far above the quiet world below, the stars continued their slow procession across the heavens. The owl drifted silently through the cool night air, as though watching a story whose ending had not yet been written. Within Zeus, something extraordinary was preparing to emerge. Not through the familiar rhythms of birth known to mortals, but through an event so astonishing that it would become one of the most memorable scenes in all of Greek mythology. Soon, the heavens themselves would witness the arrival of Athena. Time passed in ways that only the ancient myths could measure. The stars completed countless quiet journeys across the heavens, while seasons came and went upon the earth below. Rivers continued their patient course toward the sea. Olive trees stretched a little higher with each passing year, and the world settled into the gentle rhythm that the Greeks believed had been established by the Olympian gods. Yet within Zeus, something remarkable continued to grow. The stories tell us that the wisdom of Metis remained with him, offering quiet counsel that could not be silenced. Hidden from the sight of gods and mortals alike, her child also continued to mature. It was a mystery unlike any other in Greek mythology, one that unfolded beyond the reach of ordinary understanding. Then, one day, everything changed. Zeus began to feel an extraordinary pain within his head. At first, perhaps it seemed no different from an ordinary ache, the sort that fades with time and rest. But the discomfort continued to grow until it became impossible to ignore. The king of the gods, whose voice could command thunder and whose hand could shape the fate of nations, found himself unable to quiet the pain. The Olympian gods gathered around him with growing concern. None had ever witnessed such a thing before. They searched for an explanation, yet the mystery remained beyond their understanding. Whatever was unfolding had never happened in heaven or on earth. At last, Zeus called for Hephaestus, the gifted craftsman whose skill with hammer and bronze was admired throughout Olympus. Among all the gods, there was no artisan more capable of solving difficult problems with steady hands and careful judgment. The request that followed must have seemed astonishing. Zeus instructed Hephaestus to strike his head with a mighty blow. Ancient storytellers described the moment in different ways. Some spoke of a bronze axe. Others imagined a great hammer forged within Hephaestus's celestial workshop. Yet every version agrees that the divine craftsman obeyed with great care, trusting that Zeus understood what needed to be done. With a single powerful strike, the heavens fell silent. Then, from the opening in Zeus's head, Athena emerged. She did not appear as an infant. She entered the world fully grown, clothed in shining armor, carrying her helmet, shield, and spear. Yet despite this remarkable appearance, the ancient poets seldom described her with anger or fierce triumph. Instead, she seemed ready to serve, ready to guide, ready to bring wisdom wherever it might be needed. It is one of mythology's most unforgettable images. Wisdom does not slowly awaken. It arrives complete. For the Greeks, this extraordinary birth carried profound meaning. Athena entered the world not through ordinary inheritance, but directly from the mind of Zeus himself. Whether understood literally or symbolically, The story suggested that true wisdom belongs alongside thoughtful leadership. Power alone is incomplete. Strength finds its greatest purpose only when guided by understanding. The owl glided quietly above the marble temples, its pale wings catching the moonlight as though carrying the memory of that ancient moment across countless generations. Below, the olive trees continued their patient growth, just as they always had, reminding the world that wisdom, once revealed, continues to flourish long after the moment of its arrival. The birth of Athena also revealed something deeply hopeful. Although Zeus had acted out of fear that prophecy might overturn the order he had created, the future unfolded in a way no one expected. The feared son never appeared. Instead, the daughter foretold by the ancient prophecy became one of Olympus's most trusted and admired deities. Rather than challenging Zeus's rule, Athena strengthened it through wise counsel, thoughtful judgment, and unwavering loyalty. Again and again, the myths would show her standing beside the king of the gods, offering advice instead of demands, insight instead of ambition. She became not the embodiment of conquest, but of careful discernment. While other gods were often swept along by jealousy, pride, or sudden emotion, Athena remained remarkably steady, approaching each challenge with patience and clear thought. Perhaps that quiet steadiness explains why her stories have endured for so many centuries. Every generation discovers that knowledge alone is not enough. Facts may fill the mind, but wisdom teaches us how to use them with kindness, restraint, and compassion. The ancient Greeks expressed that timeless lesson through the unforgettable image of Athena stepping into the light, fully prepared to help both gods and mortals navigate an uncertain world. The owl settled once more upon the branch of an old olive tree overlooking the sleeping city. Its bright eyes turned toward the distant horizon where the first hint of dawn seemed almost ready to touch the sky. Athena's story had begun with one of mythology's greatest wonders, yet the remarkable birth was only the beginning. Soon, another challenge would arise, one that would determine which immortal would become the beloved guardian of the city that still bears her name. As dawn slowly approached the distant hills, the owl remained awake. While many creatures welcomed the first hints of morning, the little owl lingered quietly upon its weathered branch overlooking the Acropolis. Throughout the night, it had watched the city in peaceful silence. It had seen moonlight drift across marble columns, listened to the soft rustling of olive leaves, and observed the patient stillness that settled over Athens while its people slept. Perhaps that quiet watchfulness explains why the owl became so closely linked with Athena. Among the countless birds that filled the skies above ancient Greece, the owl was unlike the others. It did not rely upon brilliant colors or soaring displays to attract attention. Its greatest gift was something far quieter. It could see when darkness covered the landscape, noticing movement where others perceived only shadows. To the ancient Greeks, this remarkable ability suggested far more than keen eyesight. It became a symbol of perception itself. Athena's wisdom was never described as the ability to know everything. Instead, it was the ability to notice what others overlooked. She observed patiently before reaching conclusions. She listened before offering counsel. She understood that the clearest answers often appeared only after hurried voices had fallen silent. The owl reflected those same qualities. Its wide golden eyes remained open while the world rested. Its flight disturbed neither branch nor leaf. It hunted with patience rather than speed, waiting quietly until the proper moment revealed itself. Every movement seemed measured, never rushed, never wasteful. Over time, artists throughout Greece began placing the owl beside Athena in statues, painted pottery, carved reliefs, and small household shrines. Sometimes it perched confidently upon her shoulder. Sometimes it rested in her open hand. Occasionally it appeared nearby upon an olive branch or marble column, its calm presence completing the image even when no explanation was offered. The Athenians knew exactly what it meant. Long before many people could read written words, symbols carried stories from one generation to the next. A traveler seeing an owl carved above a doorway immediately recognized Athena's protection. A merchant stamping the little bird upon a silver coin reminded everyone that wisdom was among the city's greatest treasures. Indeed, some of the most famous coins of the ancient world carried the image of Athena upon one side and her faithful owl upon the other. These silver tetradrachms traveled far beyond Greece, passing through the hands of merchants, sailors, diplomats, and explorers. Wherever they journeyed, the quiet owl became an ambassador for the city that prized thoughtful judgment above reckless ambition. As centuries passed, the little bird became so closely associated with Athens that visitors sometimes referred to the city simply by mentioning its owls. Even today, archaeologists continue to uncover these remarkable coins, their delicate images preserved beneath layers of earth until once again they catch the light. The owl lifted gently from its branch and glided between the marble columns of the Acropolis. The first pale colors of morning were beginning to soften the eastern horizon, yet much of the city still slept peacefully below. In that quiet hour, it became easy to understand why Athena's companion was not an eagle, a falcon, or any creature celebrated for power alone. Wisdom does not always arrive with great fanfare. Sometimes it appears quietly, patiently observing until the right path becomes clear. The owl continued its graceful flight above Athens, carrying with it a lesson that has endured for thousands of years. To see clearly requires more than sharp eyes. It asks for patience, humility, and the willingness to look beyond the obvious. Those were the gifts Athena offered to all who sought her guidance, and they remain just as valuable beneath today's skies as they were beneath the moonlit heavens of ancient Greece. The owl continued its gentle journey above the awakening city, passing over rooftops that would soon fill with the sounds of another ordinary day. Before long, merchants would open their stalls, potters would begin turning their wheels, and children would follow their teachers through shaded streets where questions were often valued as highly as answers. It was in places like these that Athena's greatest gift quietly revealed itself. The ancient Greeks admired knowledge, but they admired wisdom even more. They understood that the two were not always the same. A person might memorize countless poems, navigate by the stars, or master the craft of building ships, yet still struggle to choose the right course when faced with a difficult decision. Wisdom asked something more. It invited people to pause before speaking, to listen before judging, to consider not only what could be done, but what should be done. These were the qualities the Greeks saw reflected in Athena, and they believed such virtues could shape both individuals and entire communities. Perhaps that is why she became the trusted companion of heroes. Again and again, the old stories described mighty warriors whose strength alone could not solve every challenge. A sword might overcome an enemy, but it could not untangle a difficult choice. A shield could protect the body, yet it offered little guidance when pride clouded good judgment. Athena entered those stories not as the loudest voice, but often as the calmest. She encouraged careful observation before action. She reminded heroes that patience frequently accomplished what haste could not. Rather than seeking glory for herself, she quietly helped others discover wisdom within their own decisions. The owl settled upon the broad limb of another ancient olive tree, whose roots reached deep into the rocky hillside. From there, it watched the first rays of sunlight spread across the marble buildings below. Every new day offered fresh opportunities to make wise choices, both great and small. Perhaps that was why the Athenians found comfort in Athena's presence. Her guidance was not reserved for extraordinary moments. It belonged just as much to ordinary life. A builder deciding where to place the first stone, a captain choosing the safest season to sail, a judge listening patiently before reaching a verdict, a parent teaching a child with kindness instead of anger. These quiet moments rarely found their way into epic poems, yet they were the very places where wisdom mattered most. The philosophers who later gathered in Athens often explored these same ideas. They asked whether a good life was measured by wealth, fame, or power, or whether something deeper gave lasting meaning to human experience. Their conversations filled courtyards and shaded walkways, sometimes lasting for hours as one thoughtful question led naturally to another. Although those philosophers did not all agree, many shared a deep respect for Athena as a symbol of the thoughtful life. She represented the patient search for understanding rather than the certainty of already having every answer. That may be one reason her stories continue to speak so clearly across the centuries. Our own world moves quickly. Information travels farther in a single moment than ancient travelers could have imagined in a lifetime. Yet the quiet qualities Athena embodied remain just as valuable. We still admire those who listen carefully, who weigh difficult choices with compassion, and who understand that lasting solutions are seldom discovered in moments of anger or haste. The owl launched gently into the brightening sky, circling once above the city before turning toward the sacred hill where Athena's great temple would one day stand. From that height, the streets below appeared beautifully connected, each path leading naturally toward another, much like the stories themselves. Soon, one of those stories would tell how Athena came to earn the devotion of an entire city. Another powerful god had also set his heart upon becoming its guardian. The choice that followed would shape not only the future of Athens, but one of the most enduring symbols of peace and prosperity the ancient world would ever know. As morning light spread across the hills of Attica, the owl drifted beyond the marble temples and out over the rugged countryside that surrounded the young city. From above, the land revealed its quiet character. Rocky hills rose gently from the earth. Narrow valleys carried seasonal streams toward the distant sea, and scattered olive trees clung patiently to the sunlit slopes. It was a beautiful landscape, though not an easy one. The soil was often thin. Summers could be long and dry. Fresh water was precious, and every harvest depended upon careful planning, steady work, and a measure of hope that the seasons would be kind. Those who made their homes here understood that prosperity could never be taken for granted. It had to be cultivated year after year. Perhaps that was why the ancient storytellers imagined that the city itself would one day become the subject of a remarkable choice. Long before Athens bore the name by which we know it today, the gods looked upon this growing settlement with great interest. It occupied a promising place between mountains and sea, where trade, craftsmanship, and learning might someday flourish. Such a city deserved the protection of an immortal guardian. Two great Olympians answered that calling. One was Poseidon, mighty ruler of the seas. His kingdom stretched across every ocean and every distant shore. Sailors prayed for his favor before setting out into uncertain waters, while coastal communities depended upon his generosity for fish, trade, and safe passage. His power could be breathtaking, yet like the sea itself, it could also become fierce and unpredictable. The other was Athena. She brought no crashing waves or rolling thunder. Her strength appeared more quietly. She offered thoughtful judgment, patient craftsmanship, and the steady confidence that grows through learning. If Poseidon represented the restless energy of nature, Athena reflected the careful work of civilization. Neither gift was without value. The sea connected distant lands and carried explorers beyond the horizon. Without it, ideas and commerce traveled slowly. Yet the land also asked for its own kind of wisdom. Crops needed tending. Homes required building. Communities flourished only when people learned to work together with patience and foresight. The owl circled above the rocky hill where the people had gathered, watching as gods and mortals prepared for an extraordinary moment. According to the old stories, the decision would not be made through argument or conquest. Instead, each deity would offer a gift, allowing the people to choose which blessing they wished to receive. There is something wonderfully gentle about that ancient idea. Rather than claiming the city by force, the gods invited its people to imagine the future they hoped to build. Would it be a future shaped by power, or by wisdom, by swift triumph, or by patient endurance? The stories leave those questions quietly resting beneath the surface, allowing every generation to discover its own answers. Poseidon stepped forward first. With a confident movement, he struck the rocky ground using his magnificent trident. The earth trembled beneath the force of the blow, and from the stone sprang a great fountain. In some ancient tellings, clear water burst joyfully into the air before falling back upon the earth. In others, the water tasted of the sea itself, reminding everyone that Poseidon ruled the mighty oceans surrounding Greece. Whatever version listeners preferred, the meaning remained much the same. The sea was a gift of movement. It carried merchants across distant waters. It brought new ideas from foreign shores. It promised adventure beyond the horizon. Standing upon the hillside, the gathered people could not help but admire such a remarkable display. The fountain shimmered beneath the sunlight, while the sea breeze carried the scent of distant waves across the land. The owl watched quietly from its branch. The gift was impressive, powerful, beautiful. Yet somewhere nearby, another gift was still waiting to be revealed. One that would ask not what could astonish a city for a single day, but what might quietly sustain it for centuries to come. When the waters had grown still and the murmurs of admiration gently faded, all eyes turned toward Athena. Unlike Poseidon, she carried no expectation of dazzling the gathering with overwhelming power. She simply stepped forward with the same quiet confidence that had come to define her throughout the ancient stories. There was no hurry in her movements, and no desire to outshine another god through spectacle alone. The owl followed her from above, gliding silently through the brightening sky before coming to rest upon a nearby stone. Around them, the hillside waited in perfect stillness, as though even the breeze had paused to witness what would happen next. Athena knelt and placed one hand upon the earth. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. The rocky ground remained quiet beneath her touch, and the gathered people watched with patient curiosity. Then, slowly, a tiny green shoot emerged from the soil. Delicate leaves unfolded toward the morning light, and slender branches reached upward with quiet determination. Before their eyes stood the first olive tree. It was not the kind of gift that demanded applause. Its greatness would reveal itself gradually. Year after year, the tree would bear nourishing fruit. Its olives could be preserved through the winter months, while the rich oil they produced became one of the ancient world's most valuable resources. Families prepared their meals with it. Lamps burned through the evening because of it. Athletes anointed themselves before competitions, and healers found countless practical uses for its gentle properties. Even the wood of the olive tree proved remarkably useful. Strong, beautifully grained, and slow to decay, it became the material for tools, household objects, and works of careful craftsmanship. Long after a harvest had been gathered, the tree continued to offer quiet gifts. Perhaps most remarkable of all was its patience. An olive tree asks much of those who plant it. It grows slowly, often taking years before producing abundant fruit. Those who place a young sapling into the ground may never enjoy its greatest harvest themselves. Instead, they plant with future generations in mind, trusting that children and grandchildren will one day rest beneath branches they helped begin. How fitting that such a tree should become Athena's gift. The owl settled among the new branches, as though recognizing an old companion. From its perch, it could see the people studying the tree with growing understanding. Unlike a fountain that inspired wonder for a single moment, the olive promised quiet abundance through every passing season. The ancient storytellers understood this difference well. One gift reflected immediate power, the other reflected enduring wisdom. Neither lacked beauty, yet each invited the people to imagine a different future. Would greatness be measured by displays of strength that captured attention today, or by patient acts of stewardship whose rewards unfolded slowly across many lifetimes? The people chose the olive tree. In honoring Athena's gift, they chose a vision of their city built upon learning, craftsmanship, thoughtful leadership, and the careful use of nature's blessings. According to the old legends, the settlement thereafter became known as Athens, carrying the goddess's name into history. Whether the story unfolded exactly as the poets described is less important than the truth they hoped to express. Civilizations flourish not simply because they possess power, but because they learn how to use their gifts wisely. The olive tree became a living reminder of that lesson. Its roots reached deep into difficult ground, finding strength where the surface appeared barren. Its branches bent gently with the wind, rather than breaking before it. Season after season, it continued its quiet work without seeking praise. The owl lifted effortlessly into the clear morning sky and circled above the hillside, now marked by the young tree. As years became generations, that single gift would spread across the countryside. Olive groves would cover the surrounding hills, their silvery leaves shimmering beneath both summer sunlight and winter rain. Travelers approaching Athens from afar would see them stretching toward the horizon, each grove carrying the memory of the choice made long ago. Even today, some olive trees in Greece are believed to be many hundreds of years old, their twisted trunks bearing witness to centuries of changing seasons. Standing beside them, it is easy to understand why the ancient Greeks chose this remarkable tree to represent wisdom itself. Like Athena, it asks for patience. Like Athena, it rewards thoughtful care. And like Athena, its greatest gifts are often shared most generously with those who come after us. As the owl disappeared beyond the olive grove, another chapter of Athena's story quietly awaited. The goddess who had won the love of a city would soon become the trusted guide of heroes, offering wisdom whenever courage alone was not enough. The owl left the quiet olive groves behind and rose upon the warm currents of the afternoon sky. Below, the hills of Attica gradually gave way to winding roads that disappeared beyond distant mountains and sparkling coastlines. Somewhere along those roads walked travelers whose names would one day become legends. Their journeys would carry them through forests, across seas, into hidden kingdoms, and toward challenges no ordinary person could overcome alone. Again and again, one familiar presence would quietly appear beside them. Not always in plain sight, not always with spoken words, but always at the moment when wisdom became more valuable than strength. Athena's place in Greek mythology is remarkable for this very reason. Unlike many of the Olympian gods, she rarely sought to become the center of every story. Instead, she helped others discover the courage, patience, and insight already waiting within themselves. Her greatest victories were often someone else's victories. Perhaps that is why so many heroes remembered her with gratitude. One of the earliest was Perseus. The young hero faced a task that seemed impossible. He had been commanded to seek the Gorgon Medusa, whose gaze could turn any living creature to stone. Countless warriors might have rushed forward with swords drawn, believing courage alone would be enough. Athena offered something different. She placed into Perseus's hands a shield polished so brightly that it reflected the world like a still pool of water. Rather than looking directly at Medusa, Perseus watched her reflection upon its shining surface. Through careful observation instead of reckless bravery, he accomplished what strength alone never could. It is a wonderfully gentle lesson hidden within an exciting adventure. Sometimes the wisest path is not the most obvious one. The owl drifted onward, crossing valleys where shepherds tended their flocks beneath broad skies. Far below, life continued at its peaceful pace, reminding every traveler that extraordinary moments are always surrounded by ordinary days. Before long, another hero entered the stories. Heracles possessed enormous strength, perhaps greater than any mortal before him. His mighty labors became famous throughout Greece. Yet even he occasionally required more than powerful muscles and unwavering determination. Ancient storytellers sometimes describe Athena as standing quietly beside him, offering encouragement when burdens seemed impossible to bear. In one tale, she even helps him shoulder the weight of the heavens for a brief moment, reminding listeners that no one, however capable, succeeds entirely alone. There is quiet comfort in that image. Even the strongest among us sometimes benefit from thoughtful guidance. As sunlight softened across the countryside, the owl settled upon the broad limb of an old oak overlooking a narrow mountain pass. Travelers moved slowly below, each carrying supplies for journeys whose endings remained unknown. Some would return home wiser than when they departed. Others would discover that the greatest treasures were not found at the end of the road, but within the lessons learned while walking it. Athena understood that truth well. She never promised that every path would be easy. She simply reminded those under her care that clear thinking often lights the way when the road ahead seems uncertain. It was a gift that would become even more important for another hero whose journey would last far longer than he ever imagined. Of all the heroes whose stories became woven into the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, perhaps none reflected Athena's gifts more completely than Odysseus. He was not the tallest warrior standing before the walls of Troy. He was not the strongest. Others possessed greater speed, greater strength, or more fearsome reputations upon the battlefield. Yet when impossible problems appeared, it was often Odysseus who found a path no one else had noticed. The ancient Greeks admired this quality deeply. They even had a word for it: métis. It was the same thoughtful intelligence we encountered earlier in the story, the wisdom once embodied by the goddess Métis herself. It meant far more than cleverness. It described the ability to observe patiently, adapt to changing circumstances, and discover possibilities hidden from hurried minds. In many ways, Odysseus became the mortal who most clearly reflected Athena's own way of seeing the world. The owl glided above a quiet shoreline where gentle waves lapped against weathered stones. Beyond the horizon stretched the same restless sea that Odysseus would one day cross again and again, always searching for the distant island he called home. His long journey began after the fall of Troy. The war had finally ended, yet the hardest part of his adventure still lay ahead. Storms scattered his companions. Strange islands appeared through drifting mists. Powerful kings, enchanting voices, dangerous creatures, and unexpected temptations tested his judgment as often as his courage. Again and again, Athena quietly watched over him. She could not simply carry him safely home. The ancient myths rarely allow wisdom to remove every hardship. Instead, Athena offered something more enduring. She gave encouragement when hope began to fade. She inspired careful thinking when emotions threatened to overwhelm reason. She reminded Odysseus to remain patient when every instinct urged him to act too quickly. Perhaps that is why their friendship feels so genuine even after thousands of years. Athena did not choose Odysseus because he never made mistakes. Quite the opposite. He was deeply human. He sometimes spoke too proudly. He occasionally trusted the wrong people. He allowed frustration and anger to cloud his judgment more than once. Yet each time he stumbled, he remained willing to learn. That willingness may have mattered more to Athena than perfection ever could. The owl settled upon the weathered mast of a quiet fishing boat pulled safely onto the shore. It seemed a fitting place to rest, for ships occupy a special place in the story of Odysseus. They carried him toward danger and toward hope, across calm waters and violent storms, always reminding him that no voyage follows a perfectly straight course. Athena understood that wisdom grows much the same way. It is seldom acquired in moments of comfort. It develops through experience, through careful listening, through unexpected setbacks, through the quiet decision to begin again after disappointment. When Odysseus finally returned to Ithaca after 20 long years away, Athena's guidance did not end. She appeared in disguise, as she often did, helping him understand the situation before revealing himself too quickly. She encouraged patience over impulse, observation before action. Even after reaching home, wisdom remained just as necessary as courage. The ancient storytellers seemed to delight in this gentle irony. The greatest challenge was not reaching home. It was knowing how to return wisely. The owl lifted into the evening sky once more, circling high above the sea whose waves caught the last golden light of the setting sun. Somewhere below, countless sailors looked toward distant horizons, hoping that favorable winds and thoughtful decisions would carry them safely onward. Perhaps they whispered a quiet prayer to Athena before raising their sails. Perhaps they remembered Odysseus and understood that every journey, whether across oceans or through the ordinary seasons of life, asks something more than courage alone. It asks us to observe carefully, to think patiently, to remain hopeful when the destination seems impossibly far away. These were the quiet gifts Athena offered her faithful companion. They are the same gifts she continues to offer every listener willing to slow their pace, look beyond the obvious, and trust that wisdom often arrives one thoughtful step at a time. As twilight settled over the sea, the owl turned inland once again. Beyond the coastline, workshops were growing busy. Sculptors shaped cool marble beneath practiced hands, and weavers guided brightly colored threads across waiting looms. There, in the patient work of ordinary people, another side of Athena's remarkable story was waiting to be discovered. Leaving the distant coastline behind, the owl followed the winding roads back toward Athens. The afternoon had begun to soften into evening. Long shadows stretched across quiet courtyards, while the warm stone walls of the city gathered the last golden light of the sun. From open doorways came the gentle sounds of daily work. The steady tap of a sculptor's hammer echoed through a nearby workshop. A potter turned a wheel with practiced hands. Somewhere farther along the street, the rhythmic click of a loom rose and fell like a quiet heartbeat. These were not the places where heroes won immortal glory, yet they were among Athena's favorite places. The ancient Greeks believed that every carefully learned skill carried something of the goddess within it. A beautiful object did not appear through chance alone. It began as an idea, grew through patient practice, and slowly took shape beneath steady hands. Athena understood that creation has its own quiet kind of courage. The owl settled upon the wooden beam above a weaver's doorway. Inside, brightly colored threads stretched across a large loom, each one crossing another in a pattern that only the craftswoman could fully see. At first glance, the individual strands appeared almost ordinary. Yet little by little they formed flowers, waves, birds, and graceful geometric designs whose beauty emerged only through patience. Perhaps wisdom is woven in much the same way. Rarely do we recognize its pattern while each individual thread is being placed. Only with time do we begin to see the whole. Among all the crafts associated with Athena, weaving held a place of special honor. Greek storytellers often describe the goddess herself as a master weaver whose skill reflected order, balance, and thoughtful design. Every thread had its purpose. Every color found its proper place. Nothing was wasted and nothing was hurried. The loom itself offered a quiet lesson. Pull one thread too tightly and the fabric begins to distort. Leave another too loose, and its strength begins to fade. Harmony is found somewhere between the two. As evening deepened, the owl continued through the city, passing workshops where bronze glowed warmly inside small furnaces. Skilled metalworkers shaped shields, tools, lamps, and household vessels with careful precision. Nearby, stonemasons patiently smoothed marble destined for temples that might stand for centuries. Carpenters measured each board before making a single cut, understanding that careful preparation often prevented difficult mistakes. Athena watched over every one of these quiet labors, not because each task was perfect, but because each represented a sincere effort to transform knowledge into something useful and lasting. The ancient Greeks admired this deeply. To master a craft was not simply to become more skilled, it was to become more attentive. A potter learned to recognize the exact moment clay held the right amount of moisture. A sculptor learned to notice tiny veins hidden within the marble before lifting a chisel. A shipbuilder understood that the grain of the wood often revealed its greatest strength. Again and again, wisdom revealed itself through careful observation. The owl watched as an elderly craftsman paused before making another cut. Rather than rushing forward, he rested quietly, studying his work from several different angles. Only when he felt certain did he lift his tools once again. It was a simple moment, easy to overlook. Yet perhaps Athena smiled most warmly upon moments such as these, not because they would be remembered in epic poems, but because they reflected the quiet habit of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. As the first evening stars began to appear above the rooftops, the city settled into its familiar rhythm once more. Lamps flickered to life behind open windows. Families gathered for simple meals, and conversations drifted gently into the cooling air. The owl remained upon its beam, watching another peaceful day come to its close. In the patient hands of artists, builders, and craftsmen, Athena's wisdom continued to live, not as an idea preserved only in stories, but as something practiced every single day. The owl left the rooftops behind and climbed once more into the quiet evening sky. Below, Athens glowed with hundreds of tiny lamps whose warm light spilled gently into narrow streets. From above, the city resembled a woven tapestry. Each home, workshop, and marketplace connected to the next, every life contributing its own thread to the larger design. Perhaps that was one of Athena's greatest gifts. She helped people discover that wisdom grows stronger when it is shared. No single builder could raise a temple alone. No weaver could produce every cloth a city required. No farmer, potter, shipwright, or teacher could create a thriving community through solitary effort. Civilization itself became the greatest work of craftsmanship, shaped little by little through cooperation, patience, and trust. The ancient Greeks often credited Athena with inspiring many of the practical skills that allowed communities to flourish. They believed she watched over those who learned to harness horses, construct sturdy ships, fashion reliable tools, and transform simple materials into objects of beauty and usefulness. Whether these stories were understood as literal gifts from the goddess or as symbols of human ingenuity mattered less than the lesson they carried. Every advancement begins with someone willing to observe carefully, ask thoughtful questions, and patiently improve upon what came before. The owl drifted over a shipyard where newly finished vessels rested quietly beside the shore. Their wooden hulls reflected the fading colors of the sky, while neatly coiled ropes waited for voyages that would begin with the next favorable wind. A ship is a remarkable creation. Hundreds of carefully shaped pieces must fit together with quiet precision. Every timber depends upon another. Every knot must hold securely. Every sail must be measured, cut, and stitched with care. One hurried mistake, almost invisible while the ship rests safely on land, may reveal itself only when great waves begin to rise. Perhaps that is why the Greeks believed Athena smiled upon shipbuilders. Their work required exactly the qualities she represented: thoughtfulness, preparation, patience. The same could be said of architects whose careful measurements transform bare hillsides into graceful temples. Before a single column could rise toward the heavens, countless quiet decisions had already been made. Foundations had to be laid with care. Stone had to be chosen wisely. Every proportion needed to create harmony for generations yet unborn. The owl settled upon the unfinished capital of a marble column, where skilled craftsmen would return with the morning light. Even in its incomplete form, the stone hinted at the beauty it would one day possess. There is something comforting about unfinished work. The ancient Greeks understood that perfection is rarely achieved in a single day. Great accomplishments reveal themselves gradually, almost unnoticed, through steady effort repeated over many seasons. Perhaps Athena understood this better than anyone. She never hurried the sculptor's hand. She never rushed the olive tree toward its harvest. She never asked wisdom to arrive before experience had prepared the way. Instead, she seemed to delight in the quiet process of becoming. As darkness gently settled across the city, the evening breeze carried the faint scent of olive wood fires and freshly baked bread through the winding streets. Families gathered together, sharing the simple stories of their day. Parents passed familiar skills to curious children. Grandparents recalled lessons learned many years before, while young hands eagerly practiced them for the first time. This, too, was one of Athena's enduring gifts. Knowledge was never meant to be hidden away. It was meant to be shared, passed from one generation to the next, like the careful tending of an olive grove or the patient weaving of a beautiful cloth. The owl rose quietly from the marble column and looked toward the towering Acropolis, where Athena's great temple stood watch over the city below. Within its walls rested magnificent sculptures and treasured offerings, but perhaps the goddess's greatest legacy was never found inside the temple itself. It lived in the hands of the people. In every carefully crafted bowl, every well-built home, every thoughtfully governed community, every teacher who patiently answered one more question before the day was done. As the stars brightened overhead, the owl began another gentle circle above the sleeping city. Soon our journey would carry us upward to the Parthenon itself, where marble, moonlight, and memory would meet beneath the quiet gaze of Athena, just as they have for more than 2,000 years. Night returned quietly to Athens. One by one, the sounds of the busy city gave way to a softer rhythm. The workshops had closed their doors. The marketplace rested in silence. Gentle conversation drifted from nearby homes before slowly fading into the cool evening air. Above it all, the owl rose once more toward the highest hill, where Athena's greatest sanctuary waited beneath a sky filled with stars. The climb to the Acropolis was neither hurried nor steep. Ancient stone pathways, worn smooth by countless footsteps, wound gently upward toward the sacred hill. Pilgrims had walked these same paths for generations. Some carried small offerings of olive oil or woven cloth. Others simply wished to stand for a while within a place that reminded them of the wisdom they hoped to cultivate in their own lives. The owl glided effortlessly above the broad entrance known as the Propylaea, whose graceful columns welcomed visitors into the sacred precinct. Even after the last footsteps had faded for the evening, the marble continued to hold the warmth of the day's sunshine, slowly releasing it into the cool night. Beyond the gateway stood the Parthenon. Even today, it remains one of the most recognizable buildings ever created. Yet it is easy to forget how astonishing it must have appeared to those seeing it for the first time. Freshly quarried marble shimmered with remarkable brightness beneath the Greek sun, while painted details of deep blue, rich red, and gleaming gold highlighted the sculptures and carved ornamentation. Time and weather have softened much of that color, leaving us with the graceful marble we know today. Yet the ancient Athenians experienced a temple alive with color, light, and extraordinary craftsmanship. As moonlight settled across its columns, the remaining traces of those vibrant details seemed almost to linger in memory, inviting us to imagine the temple as it once stood more than 2,000 years ago. The owl landed quietly upon one of the great marble capitals, high above the ground. From that peaceful perch, the entire city unfolded below like a map of gentle lights. Olive groves shimmered silver beneath the stars. The distant sea reflected a narrow ribbon of moonlight stretching toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond the surrounding hills, travelers continued their journeys, while here upon the Acropolis, everything seemed wonderfully still. The Parthenon was never simply a magnificent building. It was a promise. Every carefully measured column spoke of balance. Every graceful proportion reflected thoughtful design. Every carved stone reminded visitors that beauty and wisdom could exist together. The builders who created the temple understood something remarkable. If a single column stood perfectly straight, the human eye might actually perceive it as bending inward. To create the appearance of perfect harmony, they introduced almost invisible curves into the architecture. Columns widened ever so slightly near their centers. Floors rose gently toward the middle. Lines that seemed perfectly straight were, in fact, subtly shaped to create visual balance. Most visitors never noticed these refinements consciously, yet almost everyone sensed their quiet effect. The temple simply felt right. Perhaps that, too, was a lesson worthy of Athena. True mastery often hides its greatest achievements. The finest craftsmanship rarely calls attention to itself. It simply creates an experience so harmonious that everything appears effortless. The owl watched as a cool breeze drifted between the towering columns, carrying with it the familiar fragrance of olive trees growing on the slopes below. Their silvery leaves whispered softly beneath the moonlight, just as they had on countless evenings before. Stone, tree, sky. Together they formed a quiet conversation that had continued across the centuries. Long after kings and generals had passed into memory, these enduring companions remained, patiently reminding each new generation that wisdom often outlives power. The owl closed its bright eyes for just a moment, listening to the peaceful silence that surrounded the great temple. In such stillness, it was easy to imagine why the sacred hill became the heart of Athens. Not because it stood above the city, but because it gently invited everyone below to lift their thoughts a little higher. The owl remained upon its marble perch as the moon climbed higher into the heavens. The sacred hill had grown wonderfully quiet now. Even the breeze seemed to move more gently among the columns, as though respecting the peaceful stillness that settled over the Acropolis each night. Imagine, for just a little while, that we are among the last visitors to arrive before the great sanctuary closes for the evening. Our footsteps are unhurried. The smooth stone beneath our feet has been polished by generations of pilgrims who came here with hopes, questions, and quiet gratitude. Some sought guidance before beginning long journeys. Others offered thanks for safe returns, abundant harvests, or the simple blessing of another peaceful season. As our eyes adjust to the gentle light within the temple, another remarkable sight gradually comes into view. Standing before us is Athena herself. Not the living goddess of myth, but an image created by one of Greece's greatest artists, the master sculptor Phidias. Patiently, over many years, he and his craftsmen shaped one of the most extraordinary works of art the ancient world would ever know. Her face and hands shimmer with smooth ivory. Her robes seem to glow with sheets of carefully worked gold. Even in the quiet light, the figure possesses a warmth that makes it feel almost alive. She stands with calm assurance, neither threatening nor triumphant. Her helmet rests upon her head with quiet dignity. Her spear reaches upward beside her, while her shield reminds every visitor that wisdom must sometimes protect what is good and just. Nearby, the faithful owl appears once again. Not large, not commanding attention, simply present, watching. The owl tilted its head ever so slightly, as though recognizing an old companion fashioned from the imagination of countless storytellers and the patient hands of gifted artisans. The people who entered the sanctuary did not simply admire a beautiful statue. They experienced the combined talents of miners who uncovered precious metals deep within the earth. Craftsmen shaped ivory with extraordinary care. Goldsmiths hammered delicate sheets, until they seemed to flow like fabric. Carpenters constructed the hidden wooden framework that supported the immense figure, though few visitors ever considered the unseen work resting beneath its brilliant surface. Perhaps that is another quiet lesson Athena leaves for us. The most beautiful achievements often depend upon countless acts of patient effort that remain invisible. A temple is never built by one pair of hands. A city is never shaped by one brilliant mind. Even wisdom itself grows through the shared experiences of many generations. The owl lifted softly from its perch and circled beneath the great roof before returning once more to the open night air. From above, the Parthenon appeared almost to float upon the hill, its marble reflecting the silver light of the moon while the city rested peacefully below. Somewhere in the darkness, an olive tree stirred gently in the evening breeze. Its roots reached quietly into the same earth that had nourished generations of Athenians. Its branches continued to offer fruit, oil, shade, and hope, just as the ancient stories had promised. It asked for little attention. It simply continued doing what it had always done. The temple and the tree, one fashioned by human hands, the other shaped by the quiet rhythm of nature. Together they express two sides of Athena's enduring gift. One celebrated what people could create when they worked together with patience and imagination. The other reminded them that the greatest wisdom often begins by understanding and respecting the natural world around them. The owl climbed higher above the Acropolis until the entire city lay peacefully beneath its wings. Workshops, homes, gardens, fountains, and temples blended into a single landscape where every life, however ordinary, contributed something lasting to the generations that would follow. Far beyond Athens, the stories of Athena were already beginning their own long journey. Travelers carried them across the Aegean Sea. Poets carried them through memory. Teachers carried them into new generations. And long after the voices of those first storytellers had fallen silent, the quiet wisdom of the gray-eyed goddess continued to find new homes wherever people gathered to learn, to create, and to seek understanding. The owl turned toward the wider world, leaving the sacred hill behind. Our own journey would follow, carrying Athena's story beyond the borders of Greece, where her influence would continue to grow in ways even the ancient poets could scarcely have imagined. The owl glided quietly beyond the familiar hills of Athens, where the silver leaves of the olive groves gradually disappeared into the distance and the winding coastline opened toward the broad blue waters of the Aegean Sea. Countless ships had departed from these shores through the centuries, carrying pottery, woven cloth, olive oil, and carefully crafted tools to distant lands. Along with those treasured goods traveled something even more enduring, the stories that people carried in their memories and shared wherever they found welcoming ears. Unlike marble or bronze, stories asked for very little. They crossed mountains with travelers, sailed beside merchants, and passed naturally from one generation to the next. Long after buildings have weathered and kingdoms have faded, a well-loved story often continues its quiet journey. Athena's story became one of those remarkable travelers. As the owl followed a merchant vessel moving steadily across calm evening waters, it was easy to imagine sailors passing the time by recalling the adventures of gods and heroes beneath the same stars that had guided countless voyages before them. When those ships reached distant ports, they carried far more than valuable cargo. New listeners discovered the courage of Heracles, the long homeward voyage of Odysseus, and the quiet wisdom of Athena. Every community heard these stories through its own traditions, yet something about Athena's character seemed to resonate almost everywhere. Perhaps wisdom needs very little translation. Every society values thoughtful leaders, skilled craftspeople, patient teachers, and those whose good judgment helps others flourish. Although languages differed from one shore to another, these hopes remained remarkably familiar. As the centuries passed, Greek ideas traveled throughout the Mediterranean world. Libraries gathered scrolls from many lands, scholars exchanged discoveries, and teachers welcomed students eager to learn about philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, poetry, and history. Knowledge grew richer each time people shared what they had learned with one another. The owl continued its quiet flight beneath a sky filled with stars until another great civilization gradually came into view. The Romans admired much of Greek culture, and rather than leaving these beloved stories behind, they embraced many of them as part of their own traditions. Athena became known as Minerva, yet the qualities people admired remained wonderfully familiar. She continued to represent wisdom, thoughtful planning, skilled craftsmanship, and the careful pursuit of knowledge. Artists still portrayed her with her faithful owl, while temples and public buildings honored her as a guardian of learning and good judgment. Although the names and languages had changed, the heart of the story remained much the same. The owl settled for a time upon the roof of a distant temple. From that quiet perch, it looked across another city filled with workshops, schools, marketplaces, and homes where ordinary people worked patiently to build better lives for those around them. It seemed that Athena's greatest gift had never belonged to one place alone. Some treasures become smaller when divided among many people, but wisdom grows in exactly the opposite way. Every teacher who shares knowledge enriches another mind, and every craftsperson who patiently guides an apprentice helps preserve skills that might otherwise be forgotten. In that way, Athena's quiet gifts continue to spread, not through conquest, but through generous hearts and curious minds. As the evening breeze stirred once again, the owl turned briefly toward the distant horizon where Athens now rested beyond sight. The city itself had disappeared into the gathering twilight, yet its spirit continued wherever people valued learning, careful craftsmanship, and the patient search for understanding. The journey that began upon a rocky hill beside the Aegean Sea had become part of a much larger story, one that was still unfolding beneath the same stars. The owl rested quietly among the silvery branches of an old olive tree overlooking the Acropolis. Beneath the gentle glow of the moon, marble columns shimmered with soft shades of silver and blue, while the narrow streets of Athens lay peaceful beneath the quiet embrace of night. A cool breeze wandered across the hillside, carrying the familiar fragrance of olive leaves before disappearing toward the distant sea, where gentle waves met the shore with an unhurried rhythm that had remained unchanged for countless generations. The city seemed wonderfully at peace. The temple stood in quiet dignity above the sleeping rooftops, while scattered lamps glowed faintly in homes where families had long since settled into restful silence. Somewhere beyond the city walls, an owl answered another across the darkened hills, and for a brief moment the night itself seemed to pause, as though listening to the stories that had settled gently into these ancient stones over thousands of years. Now the city grows still once more. The temples rest peacefully beneath the stars. Olive trees continue their slow and patient work, just as they have for countless generations. Somewhere beyond the hills, gentle waves reach the shores of the Aegean before retreating once again into the quiet darkness. The world feels wonderfully unhurried. Perhaps tomorrow another traveler will climb the worn stone paths leading toward the Acropolis. Perhaps someone will pause beneath an old olive tree or notice the silent flight of an owl crossing the evening sky. Whether they realize it or not, they will be walking through a landscape where stories have lingered for thousands of years, patiently waiting for each new generation to discover them. That has always been the quiet gift of mythology. The stories remain. They wait without hurry. Whenever we are ready to listen, they gently open the door to another time, another place, and another way of seeing the world. Thank you for spending this peaceful evening with us on the Sleepy Legends channel. We are grateful that you chose to share this journey, and we hope it has brought you a few moments of quiet wonder before sleep. If you enjoy these relaxing journeys through mythology, folklore, history, and legend, we invite you to explore the many other stories waiting for you here on the channel. There are always more ancient paths to wander, more forgotten places to visit, and more timeless legends to discover together. For now, though, our evening walk has come to its gentle end. The owl tucks its head beneath a waiting wing. The olive leaves shimmer softly beneath the moon. Athena sleeps. And wherever you may be listening tonight, may your own evening be peaceful, your dreams be gentle, and your rest be deep. Good night.